Good morning. I trust you are all as relaxed as what you appear to be. Coming to church is something that we grew up with, something that most of us could probably say we have always done. That's the only life we know. And that is a blessing. I was reminded this week by someone of you here that if you or I say that we are blessed, we need to realize that we're saying something that maybe we don't live. And the individual made the statement, he said that he got tired of people saying we are blessed. And well, I don't know that he said it could be tiring. Everybody says I'm blessed. God bless me. God bless you. And yeah, I don't want to make that long. But if you are a blessed person, it affects your lifestyle and you will live accordingly. If the blessings I get have no impact in my life, I'm just living in good luck. So are you blessed today? How do we know? I was going to say we are very blessed, but I realized that's something that I have said many times. So we now need to say, because of the way we are living, or we have been given, we live a dedicated life to the Lord. Amen. To the good Lord be all honor. It's because of that we are such a good family. It's such a good church. And yeah, that's what you call blessing. We're blessed. Thank you for praying. I look forward to my ministry in El Valle, Mexico. It seems like I haven't done that for a while, and yet I think I've done it recently. I forget where I'm going. And but yeah, pray for that. It's starting on Saturday for married couples, and then goes into the next week with 2 churches. They blend together, and they have one big gym and lots of people there. So I look forward to the week of preaching there till through Wednesday of next week. I don't know if I have to apologize. Last Sunday you saw the bulletin read that Walter Reimer would have the message this like today. And he contacted me after that he couldn't come and is now planning to be here next Sunday, so we traded that. On today's subject, I want you to turn to Proverbs chapter 24, and we're going to dig it out of there. We have 4 verses to deal with, but we will focus more on 3 verses. Proverbs chapter 24. The book of Proverbs is a book full of wisdom. And so the subject will be very much around the subject of wisdom. Proverbs 24, and if you're already there, let's start reading in verse 3. Through wisdom is an house builded. That's King James Version. If you have a different version, it would read probably something, through wisdom is a house built. Easy to understand. And by understanding it is established. Now, when you would talk to your carpenter friends, they would say, we're building a house or we're building a project. But when you would talk to somebody and say, we're getting something established, you realize, oh, that's a different approach. How do you do that? If somebody would say, we're getting a house established, that's different than building it. But it's interesting. I like the words. Verse 4, it says, and by knowledge shall the chambers be filled. In some of your translations, you will read something like the rooms would be filled. So chambers was the old word for rooms. So you have a bedroom, you have a living room, and you have a dining room, and all these things. We use the word room. The Bible has the word chamber, same thing. So chamber or room is the same thing. By knowledge shall the chambers be filled with all precious and pleasant riches. So that gives you an idea. And then verse 5, a wise man is strong. That's powerful right there. Yea, a man of knowledge increaseth strength. That's the 3 verses. That's where we will take our message out from, or we will use that as our text this morning. The topic today is building a strong home. Now, yes, I do realize some of you are probably sitting there and say, Pastor Ronald, that was last Sunday you preached that message. No, it's not. That was just a very similar message. So we're getting two messages with a similar subject. Are you okay with that? It's all about home life. It's some of you are planning to get married. This is a good year to focus on home life. This is a need for all of us. It's not that I'm preaching just because of that, but I think it's a need among us. If you would go to the news or in your coffee conversations, beware of a few statements. I'm going to tell you there's a few statements you have to especially be aware of. This is what they will often call the election year. That's it across the border. You know, that's a term we are all very familiar with. That's something that some of us might get very familiar with by the end of the year. So, is that a problem? There's also a good conversation maker, and if you're following some level of news, you could also know that this country is in need of an election by the opinion of some people. So there could be a chance that many of us would get all sidetracked and get very knowledgeable on those subjects. These are good conversation makers, okay? This is something where you can easily add your opinion to it, and you can become very smart, and nobody knows that you're not smart. And so it's really a good feeling to sit in the coffee table and realize that everybody's looking at me and thinking that I'm smart, I'm having things together. You know what? Obviously, he must have learned a lot of things or studied or somehow. Anyway, let's get that all out of the way. I mean, yeah, elections need to happen and politicians need to be, and we like them, and we like all colors of them. And so it's important that we get and keep our focus. So we will make this message hopefully simple to understand. We will have only 4 points. If you take notes today, I want to be clearer than sometimes. It's going to be 4 points today. We're taking all of them out of these verses. The first point, and that's the longest point, that is, through wisdom is a house built. That's right there, verse 3, you read it. And my second point is by understanding it is established. So we have the word wisdom, we have the word understanding. And then comes the third point, and it says by knowledge. You realize wisdom, understanding, knowledge. By knowledge, blessings increase, or the chambers are filled. And then the last point, that is, a wise man is a strong man. So, man, you like to be strong, and that point is for us. We read in verse 3, through wisdom is an house built. We are in a time, we have been in this time, but I just feel that we need to be reminded, I need to be reminded myself, the biggest impact that we as Christians will ever have. It doesn't matter in what level of status you are, whether you are much into something or much into something else. The biggest difference, the biggest impact that we as God's people will leave behind is through our home. Okay? You could be the president of the country, perhaps, or you could be the richest man in the community, but the impact that you will really leave behind flows through your home. Let's take that home and let's embrace that. It is today a time where we live in where you could get the idea through a status, perhaps, that there's a man who is really into knowing stuff. That might be true, but let's measure those things by how he is at home. Through wisdom, a home is built. Just imagine what kind of a mess we would be in if in 20 or 25 years from now, half of our homes would be broken. All the rest would stay exactly the same. We would live in the financial levels, we would live in the freedoms we do, but our homes would be shattered. Would you want to be there? Not at all. So through wisdom is a home built. We are sometimes tempted. If you are like me, you are tempted to envy those that seem to grow rich and live an easy life, and things just seem to be flowing by itself. While you are hard at work, they seem to live in leisure. When Marcela and me got married, that's going to be 30 years ago here next month, then my friends too got married. Some of them, most of them actually did. That was also a year with a lot of weddings. I'm not proposing weddings, do I? But that was a time when we had a lot of weddings and we had a lot of young folks. And my friends were financially seemingly in a much better position as I was, and I worked. And Marcela, she patched my pants. And I got envious of my friends because I was doing dirty work in the corner of this place where I worked, and I couldn't afford much more than that. While my friends, they seemed to live in leisure. And I got to the borderline of becoming envious of their lives. That is a temptation that you and I might face these days. Beware of that. There's no wisdom in being envious, okay? If you have something, cherish it. If you have a home, if you're married, cherish it. It is wisdom to cherish what you have. You might realize that in some homes, they just lazily entertain their children while they can entertain themselves with other things. Yet you, on the other hand, you are a busy mom. You're trying to do a better life, and yet you seem like you're the one that's losing, and the other ones, they just live in ease. And we tend to get envious of that. Don't do that. That's not wise. While we try to be creative and come up with a plan, and it's weekend and dad is at home, let's make it a good weekend. You know what? Some might suggest we should go to a restaurant, or one of the children would suggest, let's just watch something in the screen. Let's watch a movie or do something like that. And the people would drive past your place and they would realize, oh, you have become creative. You play something. You do something in that form with the whole family, whether that's out in the barn or whether that's in the snow or wherever it is. But obviously you are involved. Sometimes we would tend to get filled with the idea that we too should just live easy, just leisure. I'm telling you, through wisdom, a home is built. I'm not saying that all of that leisure is wrong, but it's wisdom. Your children will probably remember your efforts of being creative and having a plan for raising a family many times longer than to live an easy life where everybody is entertained by who knows what, somebody else than you. Sometimes we could get envious or jealous while others live in great debt and in luxury, as it seems, and you have to somehow try to teach yourself and your children to be content with what seems to be so little in comparison to the others. Maybe teach your children to be really thrifty while others seem to live like they please. Or like I said, when you are left to entertain your own self, whereas others choose the easy way. Wisdom is in diligence. This is where we as families need to lean on God's ways and not on our own ways. We acknowledge God in all of our ways. As wise people, we govern, or in other words, we rule ourselves and teach the rules of religion. You like that word? Some of us don't. I like the word religion, but it's a bad case in many cases. But I have religion, and I really hope you have religion as well. As long as it's based on the right faith, we all need to, well, we all have religion either way. But we govern ourselves and teach the rules of religion and discretion. Our faith in God is strong. Fathers and young men, and whoever else is in church this morning or listening online. But I want us to keep focus. Are we strong in the faith? Am I contending in the faith? Is it important to me? How important is it? It's part of a wise home. It's unwise to just let my feelings go. That really encourages selfishness in any kind of a home situation. A wise man, now listen carefully, or a wise woman will not bend to hatred. You know what? Every one of us, and the greatest likelihood is that every one of us will, in this calendar year that we are in, be tempted to get angry and to hate someone. Maybe your coworker, maybe the teacher in school, maybe the boss. I don't know who it will be. If you and I will be wise, we will not bend for that stuff. We could be bending to bitterness and become bitter. God forbid. Some of you, the mothers, the ladies, you could be tempted to fall into self-pity, and it becomes a pitiful situation with you. Don't bend for that. That's unwise. Your home will crumble. Or I just feel self-righteous. Boy, am I ever a good person. Not that I need to say that, but I just am such a good person. I wish I was that way, hey? We don't bend for these things. That's unwise. It's not going to work. We forgive and we let go. That's wisdom. Builds a strong home. When my dad passed away, of course, that's a time when you do a lot of reflecting. And so did I. As I kind of just looked over the past of all of my life, the years I had been at home and then the years after I got out of the home, but especially in my growing up years, when I was 100% vulnerable to my dad or to my dad's leadership. Especially a word for us as older men, but everyone, you know what, and especially I want to talk to the men, but this applies to us all. I realized that day, especially when on my dad's last funeral, or the end of that all, I realized that if my dad had become a bitter man, and he had lots of reasons to be that, like the way he was treated by his own mother, he could have become a bitter man long before I was born. If my dad had become a bitter man, my life, I'm standing in front of you, my life would have been so miserable simply because of that. I would have been completely vulnerable to his bitterness. It became such a very, very dear thing to we melt in worship sometimes to God. But I had absolute no control of my dad's bitterness, but because he chose to be wise rather than become bitter, I lived a good childhood. It's never going to be gone from my life. I will always, as long as I live, have had a good childhood. And that is largely due to my dad or my parents choosing wisdom. You know what? As parents, we can be in that temptation this year with your young family where you would say, boy, this is a bad life to live. I cannot. Oh, brother, sister, don't bend for that kind of stuff. It's going to ruin you. Let's keep going. You know, I can get carried away. If I get too aggressive, forgive. Let's keep going here. It's wise to think of the impact of my actions. Speaking up with a loud and a hard voice in our home creates an atmosphere. Having an angry look in my face, God forbid. Or on the other hand, you know what, as parents, you might just be okay to ignore the needs. Fathers, can I ask you something? Mothers, listen. Dads, do you ever see that there's a need when your child needs discipline, it needs direction? Maybe mom has already reminded your child once or twice, and you're aware of that, and you sit in the living room or wherever you sit, and you see the same scenario is unfolding again. The child needs a father. Do you as a man ever just stay seated and don't do anything about it? That's very unwise. That's very unwise. There's nothing admirable about that, and there's no solution in just staying seated, even though you have not a clue what to do with your child. Ignorance leads to foolishness, or ignoring leads to foolishness. Sometimes we just turn a blind eye and wish to not know the problem. Other times we realize I should do something, and we decide I will do sometimes. Sometimes I'm going to do this. I'll procrastinate that. That could even be just simply doing the laundry or cleaning your house. You know what? I don't know your homes, and that's not necessarily that I need to know, but sometimes you would step into a house and you would realize, oh, in this home there's a lot of procrastination going on. We will sweep the floor one day. For sure we will. We will clean the dishes another day. For sure we will. It's a procrastination. We live in an atmosphere like that. It's unwise. Not sinful necessarily, it's unwise. Another thing, and here's where I started off, and I don't want to take too much of the message into that, but being aware of what influences me. This is a big point. Somebody mentioned the blessing of Bible school. That's good. I think so too. We hope the young folks get really influenced by that. Today we live in a world where we could say we live in a lake of information. We have access to information like never in history. But it's critically important that we know who is the one that influences us. The point is still number one. We are building a home. That's the point. You know what? Young men and everyone else, but listen to this. Building a home is a big part of that, is coming in with a considerate spirit. You know what? How are the people affected around me? What does my presence do? Have you ever been in a situation where somebody joins the conversation, joins the coffee table as I call it, and instantly the atmosphere changes? And it changes to the negative. That's what his presence brought. My presence brings something with me. Is it a considerate mindset? Do I think about it? How am I impacting those around me? And especially my spouse or my spouse-to-be. It's easy to be a friendly boyfriend or a friendly girlfriend. I mean, it used to be easy. But it is a totally different story to continue to have that as we live together. It needs to be genuine for it to last. You know what? You do this at home. You practice this on your children, on your parents and on your siblings. Being concerned of my brother or my sister. That tells you whether you are a considerate individual in the youth years especially. It would be a fool to think, oh, I'll be a good wife, but I don't care about my sister or my home at home. Practice a concern for the well-being of others. Pray for others. You know what? Make your home a place where you pray for others. Your children grow up hearing that mom and dad are concerned of the others. We have just barely a few minutes ago, we had a list of prayer items. It's a good exercise to take them home and pray for that during the week. When somebody then shares an answer to prayer, your family is part of that. That's a great thing. Share with others. When you hear other people are in need, what do they think of mom and dad? It's easy for us to come up with a reason why we don't need to share, but share. Encourage them. Make sure you have a friendly atmosphere at home as you raise your family. Keeping conversations positive, very important. Teach children to show kindness to each other, even though it's two brothers. I mean, I'm telling you, that can have its challenge. Resist negativity or faithlessness. Practice a healthy level of humor. Maybe you don't hear that preachers say that, but I'm saying it today. Are you laughing a lot in your home? Like not at the expense of other people, but dads, make sure your family laughs. Like a good old-fashioned hearty laugh is necessary. Now we go to point number 2. That's the word understanding. It's still part of verse 3. By understanding, it is established. Now, when you have the book of Proverbs, you might sometimes have a hard time to peel it apart and make use of that. And so some of that is left up to interpretation. Man may, by unrighteous practices, build their homes. In other words, they could build up a nice big house, but they cannot establish it, for the foundation is rotten. If you and I are unwise, we will never have a very established home. Our children will be insecure. Our spouse will find insecurity in it and will not be able to be who he or she is. We live in a time, as I already said, that we can appear on social media that I am really on top of it. Let's not latch on too quick. If I'm a lazy man, I don't need to show that. You know what? We seldom see those things on social media. But we have the word by understanding. You know what? As a family, it's important that we get to know. We get to know. How are the children? How do they feel when they come home from the evening doing? Maybe it's your young people. Are we getting to know it? Or do we have a way of just passing by and not knowing how things are? I would like to do this on a different message, but I'm just going to give you a little bit of a start. Genesis chapter 4. You will not find this verse to be extra romantic, but I think it was part of it. And as you celebrate Valentine or make it a special event for your marriage, I encourage to do that. The Bible uses the word knowing. And Adam knew Eve, his wife. That's a verse that might be meaningless to some, but I think it has a lot of meaning. If you are a couple, a husband and a wife, and you have gotten to know each other, then you are leaps ahead from where many couples ever come. There's people, they've been married for 20 years, they still don't know each other. They might have a family, they might have a good intimate life as a husband and wife, but they really don't know. This takes a lot of vulnerability, opening it up, wanting to know, letting my children express their feelings. Sometimes as parents, we make that mistake that our young children, maybe a young teenager, starts to express what he thinks and starts to use language that is unacceptable. And we jump in as a father and say, you cannot speak like that. Well, maybe he couldn't, but you should have listened to what he really wanted to say. And then after he has said the whole story, you would know him. And you could have then perhaps corrected the statement. But many times we can make that mistake where the child gets the discipline and we don't get the knowledge. And that can be a little bit sad. Give your child the chance to express. Give your parents the chance to express. Have you ever interrupted and say, I already know what you want to say? My wife has to do that sometimes. I think that's a rare thing, but in your marriages probably doesn't happen. But in our home, yeah, let's just be upfront. It happens. Oh yeah, I need to let them express. We all would like to be understood. We all would like if we could just openly share our feelings without feeling vulnerable. This is understanding. You know what? As soon as you are in a relationship where you're not feeling that you can really express yourself, as married couples, this is one of the first things that you will notice. Then let's work on that. But as soon as I am there, I have to guard what I'm saying. My spouse doesn't like what I think, which might be true, but let's keep understanding. It's established. It creates establishment. Now we're going to the third point. And that was verse 4, and by knowledge shall the chambers be filled with all precious and pleasant riches. That word knowledge is a big word. But it is how we have gathered knowledge. You know what? The children go to school, and we expect that they will gain knowledge. They will have the knowledge to read. They will get the knowledge to do math. They will get the knowledge to do difficult math. So they are all being influenced by the books, and we want that to happen. It's extremely important that they gain knowledge. It's, again, a part that we can add to a diligent life. It will enrich a home as we get to know and as we get to add knowledge. But knowledge is not speaking about being lazy. Knowledge is speaking about somebody that is diligent. I'm not saying overstressed, but diligent. It's the idea of sharing rather than just receiving. It opens the door for many blessings. It says that it will fill the chambers. It will fill the chambers with blessings, or it says with treasures and with precious and pleasant riches. If in the home we have a life of proper priorities, we invite the Holy Spirit on a daily basis, we live a disciplined life using our finances, we avoid getting into all kinds of poor management, debt, and we avoid many other things that today are so inviting, maybe some kind of a quick and easy rich scheme. You know what? All of these things, they are for the ones that are closed for wanting to grow in wisdom. But we can focus on being blessed because we enjoy what we have with a cheerful attitude, a cheerful mindset. We live a family life, we live a home life where we are filled because the comforts of the Holy Spirit are part of our accumulation. Let me define. We can be a busy family, accumulating. And after we have accumulated, we had a good conversation on our fellowship lunch the other day. After we have accumulated, now we're talking financial or things. After we have accumulated, we have to face the day that we realize that is really all just going to perish. So let's be wise, young men, anyone here. Let's be the wise people that have the knowledge of blessing and an increasing in blessings. But if we can live our lives by accumulating spiritual treasures, this is something that we cannot measure with a calculator. We cannot measure that with your balance sheet at the end of the year. But if you and your child, you and your spouse can have a meaningful, spiritual, in-depth conversation, that takes accumulation. It doesn't just happen by itself. Priorities will make a big impact, whether that will be part of our home or your home in the future, or even if it is there today. We're to our last point. Point number 4, a wise man is strong. That is interesting. Verse 5, a wise man is strong. Yea, a man of knowledge increaseth strength. So they add the word knowledge again. He is increasing in strength. So we have come to this word of wisdom. We have been on that word many times. Let's just have a closer look, because now we would all like to know, what is wisdom? If you will go into your dictionaries and you look up the meaning of wisdom, you will soon realize that you probably have to deal with a full page of information as to what the word wisdom means. So I have tried in a short form. Wisdom is true religion. Did you get that? It's true religion. The religion is basically what motivates us to be who we are. Wisdom, I take this out of Noah Webster's dictionary, okay? Wisdom is a godliness. It's a devoutness. I am dedicated. It is loyalty. the knowledge and the fear of God, or a sincere and a uniform obedience to his commands. This is the wisdom which is from above. And that's a very short form of what we have in the dictionaries. You will never have a disrespectful attitude and wisdom. So for those of us that wonder, am I a wise man? Or am I entertaining a wise decision? You will feel this sometimes as you sit in your chairs, or as you drive along the road, you're thinking about a situation. And as you think about the situation, you might try to come to some kind of a conclusion or a solution. As you think about it, if you realize that I have selfishness in it, I have anger in it, or I have bitterness in it, or I have immoral thinking in it, it is absolutely never wise. It will never build. Drop it right there and just throw it out the window. It makes you weak. It will make things shattered. The psalmist has the simple prayer. Teach us to number our days so that we may bring a heart of wisdom. That's a strange trans. But the idea of us coming to an end of life will turn us to wisdom. That's what I take out of that. Wisdom provides protection. You know what? When you think of building your home, you want it to be a place where everybody feels protected. Wisdom provides protection. It will fortify, or in other words, it will strengthen a house and turn it into a castle. Many families, listen, many families today are very vulnerable to all of the bad stuff that goes around because mom and dad are not choosing wisdom. They're selfish. They're angry. They're bitter or proud. Wisdom is better. Now listen to this. I have a few thoughts here. Wisdom is better than weapons of war. Will you agree with that? We have no problem. I think my children have no problem with knowing that we have some guns in our home. We use them for certain things. My wife is okay. Your wife is okay that you have a few big weapons or guns in your home. Just imagine if you would take out all wisdom and still have guns, would you still be okay? And the answer is very clear, no, I would not be okay. Have you ever thought about it this way? If you are a person with a very good education, and we all strive for good education, but you would be lacking wisdom, your own education could become your own destruction. To give education to an unwise person is not good. Let me throw another thought into this. Just picture we have a very unwise person, very unwise family or a couple. Really unwise, but they have access to huge financial income. Would that be a blessing to them? And I think you don't need to worry about that. It would be their own curse in a short time. Wisdom is the need to build a home. It's not finances. It's not good education. It's not protection from the government. It's wisdom that is true from above. Godliness. Devoutness to a higher power. A recognition on a daily basis that God, we depend on you. It's a loyalty to God, even in your most secret chambers of your own life. It is an absolute conscience-driven loyalty that I'm standing true to God. Children know that even though my dad is by himself, alone, somewhere in an airport where nobody's going to see him, he's not going to look at things he shouldn't look. He's loyal. He's a wise man. Mom and dad, they seek the knowledge of God. Boyfriends and girlfriends, they seek the knowledge from God. What is going to be an honor to God? in our life as we plan forward. We are in sincere desire to obey the commands of God. Did we catch this? That's strength. Yeah, that's strength. A wise man is strong. That's what you had there, verse 5, right? A wise man is strong. Young men, I'm leaving this verse with you. Everyone though, but the young men especially. You can go to that verse and you know whether you are a strong man. We would all be discouraged. You know what, when you reach that age 50 and you find out things are getting soft rather than harder on your muscles, you know what, that's discouraging. But we can still be strong. We can still be strong because we choose wisdom. Your home will be built. By understanding it will be established. Your home will increase in blessings and it will be strong if we are open to the wisdom of God. God bless you.